Well, when he was a little kid, he had colic, but he was gorgeous. He had blonde curls. He was the prettiest baby I ever saw. But he was crying all the time. And his godmother came down from up north, and we were sitting in the living room watching him crawling along the floor, crying with those curls. I said, oh, if he just didn't have colic. Well, we finally got...
Who was his godmother?
Uh-huh.
Who was his godmother?
Pat Gilmore, and she's still alive. She's 91 too.
Oh, nice.
But she is a little, she's not quite as with it as, I don't think she even remembers being his godmother. Hey, do you have any coffee left?
Yeah.
This is cold.
So, and it had cheese in it.
And it had cheese.
You want?
No, I was joking.
Oh, thank you, honey. Thank you very much.
Do you remember how Scott first got into liking music and stuff?
Haven't you heard him say that?
I have heard the story. I wanted to hear
Yeah,
you tell.
well, I drove them everywhere, you know, and I always had music on, always. And he just got used to it and liking it, and he has said that that's why he got into music.
Yeah.
He loved it. Yeah. That's all I know. Just driving around, I just had it on all the time, and on in the house. I never lived without music going on. And I'm getting deaf, and if I get so deaf I don't hear music, I'm gonna slit my throat.
Did you? What did you think of Snotty Scotty and the Hankies?
Well, I couldn't
shows?
stand the name.
What are you?
God, I thought, my word.
When you first heard that was his name, what was
Yeah,
your
I
reaction?
thought, gee, couldn't you do better than that? But I got used to it.
Yeah. You liked watching the shows?
Oh, I loved it. Yeah. I thought they were fun.
What I really fell for in him, and probably what a lot of people loved about him, was his intelligence, which came through his sense of humor. And we met at the Cafe 322, and it was just very natural. Ended up talking for hours, and we actually then broke up about 4 months later by text. And Scotty signed his text, "Peace and Love," and I thought, God, what kind of California hippie is he? But then a couple weeks later, we ran into each other at the terraces where both of our mothers lived, and we were both waiting to take the elevator up to the second floor to see our respective mothers. And so we kind of encountered each other at the elevator, and we said, well, we should talk. And we ended up on the elevator. We were the only ones there. We ended up kissing on the elevator. That's all I remember.
Locked the elevator door.
And that was it. So from then on, it lasted.
Very nice. So is your mom still?
No, she died. And in fact, Betty, I was so happy Betty, on the night she died, I dropped her off after being at medical appointments all day with her, and she went in late to dinner, and Betty was there, and Betty said, come sit at my table. So I was glad she had company that last night, so that was very sweet. We used to go on holidays and things. I'd be visiting my mom and Scott his, and so we'd take the two mothers into one room and watch a movie with everybody together and things like that.
No, I corrected myself. Because out there.
About damn time.
Oh. Oh.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
Greg's ready to party.
Damn time.
But I am sad.
This is Roger's birthday.
I'm Billy Booger's little brother, Baby Booger. Say that 5 times really fast. Scott was like the big brother I never had, even though I have 3 older brothers. Many times, yes. We got along great. He used to use some of my jokes on stage. He played at my 21st birthday party, He played up at my college up at UC Santa Barbara. He played at my best buddy's wedding up in Ojai. And many a time, I'd go, any chance I'd get, if the Hankies were playing, I would be there. And I don't regret one moment. I'll miss him forever.
Well, I had I guess, the pleasure and fortune of living at Scott's house the last month of his life. And I rented a room from Joan, and I got to see Scott, what a pleasant man he was. There was no hijinks, no stories I can't tell on camera, but I got to see a couple little funny moments, just everyday Scott, and I had a pleasure of being one of the last people that spent any time with him, and it was an honor.
It's nice to know he was funny right out there.
He was funny even in pain. He had such a good spirit about him.
This is the infamous Tom Barron's Billy Booger, and I am Lisa Manharis.
I'm the artist formerly known as Billy Booger, actually. Artist, I mean,
And here we
entertainer.
have Andy.
This is Acid Andy. You know him, right?
Hello,
Everybody
it's a
should know
pleasure
him.
to see you. Under these circumstances, but it's nice to see everybody regardless. I think Tom
This is the man
Billy
who-
knew better than
Coolest
any
man,
of us.
the coolest man in the world, the funniest man in the world.
He was rock and roll in Pasadena. He was rock and roll to Pasadena. You could ask anybody from the San Gabriel Valley, they refer to Van Halen as the second best band, if that. Snotty Scotty and the Hankies are the best rock and roll band to ever come out of the San Gabriel Valley.
I was just talking to Snotty's real big brother, and he said he'd never really realized what a big deal Scotty was.
And what a big deal he was. What a huge deal he was. I wandered into Hazel's bar when I was 16 plus years old, and I never left. Yeah, and I never looked back. It was Skid Row, Shitville in Pasadena, which is now like so not what it was.
I remember spotting you at Hazel.
Yes, and there was chicken wire in front of the band when I went. That's how crazy that was. Yes, and it's truly. I was like, I thought that was only in the movies. No, but it was a movie. Our life was a movie back then. It was beautiful.
I'm Vince DiStefano.
And I'm Karen DiStefano.
And this is Mark Erickson.
I'm Mark Erickson.
Three friends of Scotty's for many years.
50 years for me. 50 years.
Skip two.
Maybe 52. Oh yeah. Yeah.
Were you like a Belmore way? Or?
No, I was over by Lake and Del Mar area. When I first met Scott when his brother was Chip was going to McKinley Junior High School.
What was Scott like back then?
Just like it was to this very day, except older looking, you know. He always, yeah, we knew each other. He came over to our parents' house to repo a van. It was a deal that had gone bad with Chip and my brother. So Scotty came over to start this van. It was in our driveway and it caught fire. Well, he was trying to start it, you know, boom, in the carburetor. So the funny part was, it's like 40 years later, or 35 years later, I let him know who I was and about the van. I tell you, it totally changed our friendship, because he forgot that I was standing there as a little kid, you know, 8 years old. I'm 60, so, you know, it's amazing. So, God bless Scott.
How about you?
I knew Scott from way back in high school. I went to Blair High School and I saw the band, Steve, and everybody play all the time, everywhere. At pretty much all my favorite divey bars, Vitali's and the Loch Ness Monster Pub and Hazel's. Chromos especially. Chromos where Skip worked. But a lot of time, drinking a lot of beers with Skip. So it's a double loss. Yeah, must have. And funny stories. Hey, you know what? Scott was always the same. But when you see somebody out of their element, it's always a shock to the system. So one day, I had some people coming over to my house to install a mirror in my bathroom because technically disinclined. And I look, and there in my front room, as I'm standing in my robe, is Scotty. I said, Scott, what are you doing here? He goes, I'd come to put your mirror inside your house, and we still have that mirror today.
He was not just Snotty Scotty, he was Scott the Glass Guy.
Yeah, Scott the Glass Guy. Scott the Glass Guy. Who knew that he had talents and abilities beyond those of mortal men, which he had in the bandstand always. Stone ass crazy. Stone ass crazy, but a heart that would melt you. You bet.
Oh boy, let's see. I think he first delivered drugs to me at my house in Pasadena when he worked at Sturgis Pharmacy.
Oh, those kind of drugs. Yeah.
The good drugs. Yeah. Well, they're all good drugs, but he was my drug dealer. Yes. Iconic, really sweethearted. An amazing musician. Fraser. There's nobody like Scott. He's gonna be missed, and I'm gonna start crying. Thank you.
My name is Cynthia Thiel, and I've danced many a time to Snotty Scotty, but recently I was sitting with my mom at the terraces, and we heard a voice that said, "It's a wonderful day in the neighborhood," and I just looked up, who could have said that? And I felt smitten. There was a star walking by, and then I repeatedly would see him. I'd be sitting with my mom, and he would be visiting his mom very often, and so I sort of had a brand new relationship with him, even though I had danced on the Colorado Street Bridge and at what was it called, a restaurant recently too. But anyway, it's nice. Well, yes, let's see. He was really good at singing and putting on a show, and I think he was a good man if he was visiting his mom all the time. And I guess I didn't know him real well, but I'd known him a long time.
Thank you.
I'm too bad my husband isn't here too. He knew him a little bit better. We went to a wedding of Lindsay and Dimony's, and Snotty Scotty played, and that must have been 40 years ago? 40. Yeah.
Great. Well, thank you.
Yeah, thank you.
Barge in here and say one thing about Scotty. Because I'm the only band, I am Hanky, by the way. I am probably the least known Hanky. What's that? I'd like to say that Billy Booger had everything to do with my being a Hanky. How many years ago? 15, 20.
So there was 4 or 5, many years, we would do the Doodah Parade, and out of just before we started, this gal with a uniform, with a unicycle and cymbals would barge in, join us, do the parade, and when the parade was over, she'd split. For years, right? I don't know how many years. And I was like, who is this gal? Where'd she come from? Where'd she go? Right? So I confronted her. Hey everybody. So I wanted to say a few words myself. There's a lot of great tribes in Pasadena. There's the Finnells, the Barons, the Wilsons, and we go back, way back. Attention. Okay. story I'd like to share with you about Scott. It was on a Sunday afternoon in the 70s, a Sunday morning, and we were trying to fight off a hangover. Scott and my brother Michael and I walked over to Merida, which was a Mexican restaurant when it was behind Colorado. And so we strolled in there to get a little Sunday morning breakfast, eggs ranchero perhaps. And who was sitting on the other side of the room in the sunglasses and a hat was David Lee Roth. So he's trying to be incognito. And so Scott tells my brother and I got an idea. I want to play a little practical joke on Dave. I'm going to go over there and I'm going to engage him in some conversation. And after about 5 minutes, you might come over and drag me away. And I'm going to resist, but you guys keep dragging me. We gotta go. So Scott gets over there and starts. Finally, Dave pretends like he doesn't recognize him. Oh, Scott, yeah. Oh, Scotty, how you doing? So, they're carrying on, and we walk over and, hey, Scott, we gotta go. We got that thing, we gotta get going. And I said, I'm talking to my buddy here. This is my old friend David Lee Roth. Can you guys wait a few minutes? No, Scott, we really gotta go. This is really okay. Hey, Dave, I gotta go. I'll have your people call my people. We'll do lunch. So that was Scott's sense of humor, and he's been a part of every major event in our lives. Going back to when my sister used to walk down the street and they'd see her coming, they started on Victoria. So I always felt like I was, from the first time I saw the band, I was the hugest fan. And every doodah, we always did it up right, made lots of banners and signs. I wanted to be their biggest fan. That was my dream. Sue took over from me, and she's done a great job. And thank you. That's my story.
Hi.
Scott used to love it when I did that. The whole dirty baby thing.
Hi. Hi. Fucker.
Yeah, gosh. This is rough. This is crazy. I'm sorry I can't be there with you guys. By the time you see this, I'm going to be in Luxembourg, being a serious touring musician, professional, blah, 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 whatever. But I really wish I could be there with everybody, honest to God. But on this, rather somber occasion, there's one little anecdote that sticks out. And it was from a couple of years ago. I ran into Scott at the Bonds up on Allen in Washington. And we were talking. We maintained a very amicable relationship, even after we kind of went our separate ways musically. But, and we were talking. And, Scott was just going on about things, how you doing, yada, yada, yada. And he said, Drake, I just want you to know that in the long and storied history of the Hankies, that you, my friend, will always be known as the asshole. And I think that was the biggest compliment he gave me in the 12, 13, 14 years, whatever, that I had been a Hanky. And, that's just the kind of relationship that we had. But the thing I'm going to miss the most, and it isn't so much the Snotty Scotty, but just Scott. Scott had the biggest heart, and he would do anything, anytime, anywhere, for the people he loved. And that's a hell of a legacy. So that's who I'm going to remember, is Scott. So in closing, I'm going to see if I can remember the little ditty we used to close all the shows with. And feel free to help me out. This can get tough. All right, here we go. Got an angel on my shoulder, got a penny in my pocket, and I found a 4-leaf clover, and I put it in a locket. Wish that all the stars above me, and I caught the nearest rainbow. Gonna find someone to love me. Gonna find someone to love. Well, I tossed a lot of nickels in a wishing well, and saved the fortune that the fortune cookies tell. I got a lucky penny and a mustard seed, but a warm and tender love is all I need. And I want a love that lingers and is stronger through and through. So I'm gonna cross my fingers, gonna find someone to love me true, and I'm gonna love him too. There you go, everybody. Wish I could be there with you. And Brother Scott, wish you could be here with us all too. We will never forget. So break on through, man, and we will see you on the other side. Take care, everybody. We'll see you around.
Well, he was my friend, so, you know, we just, how do I say, we're two very different people, so, you know, but we were friends, so it just, whatever, you know. Good friends don't care about the other person's oddnesses.
I'm very Patrick to see you.
My name's Jim Matthews. I went to high school with Scott, and he was a far better Christian than I was. I came to Loyola in the middle of my junior year. Scott only lived a couple of blocks away from me, but I knew of him, but we had never attended any earlier school. When I showed up in the middle of my junior year, I was like a fish out of water. I didn't fit in. I was not welcome. And the only people that welcomed me, even though Scott knew that I really didn't think much of him, was Scott and Kevin Haupt and Mike Arquilla and Ned Taylor and Bob Noonan, all my classmates. And they welcomed me and gave me rides back and forth to Pasadena from school and home, and were my good friends. And they put me to shame on what fine people they were and how ashamed I was of myself. And I will always be grateful to Scott, and I'm proud to call him my friend.
I'm Tom Costin, and friend of the band, and a lot of people here, and just here to celebrate Snotty Scotty and his life, and with a lot of heavy heart, you know, but we're going to get through it.
How would you describe Scott?
Irascible, lovable, and that's a hard combination all at the same time. Sure.
Watch out for me. Hi, my name is Paul Diggs, and I don't know why you're interviewing me because I have no credibility.
Your history.
Who? Oh, no, the bar mitzvah. Is that next door? Okay, I'm sorry. I'll go over there.
Clayton, C-L-A-Y-T-O-N.
What can you tell me about Scott?
Scotty, I've known Scotty close to 40 years. I was a good friend of his little brother Skip's. We've been friends for many years. I've known Scott in and out for a long time. I'm really gonna miss him. I love the family, and God bless you, Scotty.
I'm sitting in the corner feeling glad. Got no money coming in, but I can't be sad. That was the best cup of coffee that I ever had. And I don't worry about a thing because we got it made. Here on the inside, outside so far away.
And I used to hear Scott practicing that song. So thank you very much. I was going to USC, a naive co-ed, when someone told me that I had to go to Pasadena because in my anthropology class I had to do an anthropological study of a group of 10 people or more who had a history together. And that brought me to Nick's house where I met Scott and Artie and the others.
Maureen Scott. He was one of my best friends for about 31 years. My late husband and I used to hang out with him all the time. He helped me take care of my husband when he was dying of cancer. He used to come over. He had a big heart. And he would come over and sit with him, and I'd go out and work or do whatever I had to do. And there's a doodah story I have, though. A doodah parade story. After the parade, Scott had too many beers, went in our bathroom, and we found him in the bathtub with his arms like this, crossed like that, and it's hard to figure out a world without him. We've been friends for so long. He was, one time, I was working for somebody, and it was after I was widowed, and I was using the cane, and somebody was bitching at me about I had to change my day to work, and she was me, like this. And Scott heard it. We were in a bar restaurant, but so I go to the ladies room, and I hobble back, and I just heard myself. And he goes, "Don't worry, I told her to fuck off." Sorry if that's rude, but that was Scott. He didn't care. But I didn't call him Scott, I called him Johnny. Because his name is John. So I had to be different.
How would you describe it?
What?
How would you describe Scott?
Funny, hammy, sweet, loving. He was a big ham, He loved to perform. That's what he liked doing. He was wonderful. He knew so many different kinds of music. It was people didn't realize by what they would see him perform. That he really did. He was a lot of fun to be around. He really was, yeah. He made me laugh at times in my life when I thought I couldn't laugh anymore. And he made me laugh. That's a real friend.
Mostly from parties. He was playing at parties. I would see him, and I would.
What was he like?
Sorry?
What was he like?
It was a very good dance music. Had a good time dancing to his music. Thank you.
You want to take care of your
Lulu.
Lulu?
Yeah.
Tell me how you knew Scott.
Well, I date Jimmy Bruin, who's Steve's son, so I got to go to some of the Hanky shows, and that's how I knew Scotty. But my whole family, they all grew up in Pasadena, and they all knew who the Hankies were. So when I started dating Jimmy, my mom would be tell her friends and be like, "Well, my daughter's dating Steve Bruin's son." Yeah, she's her little claim to fame. But oh yeah,
A celebrity.
Yeah.
What was Scott like?
What?
How would you describe Scott?
Just kind of goofy and fun. He was good. Just somebody who just absorbed life and just appreciated the fun part of it and wasn't too serious. Yeah.
I'm Erin. Mommy.
Yeah?
Mommy. Okay, say hi.
Nice to meet you.
This is Charlie. Yep.
Charlie. Is he named after his grandfather?
Yes, he is.
Yes.
So you knew him? Oh, okay.
Scott too.
Yeah. Okay. These are the other ones. Is Eileen and Amelia.
Yeah, I met Eileen earlier.
Okay.
And
Hi, I'm Sue Lawler. I loved Snotty Scotty. He was one of my best friends. I'm very sorry that he's gone. And I've known him since I was 21 years old, and I am now 54. Yes, it's been a while. It's been a long, crazy ride.
Remember the first time you met him?
I met Scotty at the Loch Ness Monster Pub when he bummed a cigarette off of me. Yeah. And then he said, "You want to go neck in the car?" And I was like, "Well, maybe next time." And then I think maybe we did next time. He was like the sweetest man, smart, sweet, fast, whip, smart, funny, fast, loved him. So funny. Made me laugh more than anyone ever.
You're living out in the desert?
Out in the desert.
Where? What desert?
Desert Hot Springs. Out there right above Palm Springs. It's all right, you know. Gotta live somewhere.
Yeah.
It takes care of me.
Okay, here he comes. Oh, well, I understand there's going to be a little delay. Ladies and gentlemen, Mr. Saul Wright.
Good evening, ladies and germs.
Hi, Saul.
Take my wife, please. It's all right. You need to always, it's all right. Thank you, thank you. Hello. Hello. Oh. We are gathered here tonight to memorialize our friend and great musician, Snotty Scotty. Right now I'd like to introduce David Fitzgerald.
No, it's Dennis.
Or Dennis, I'm sorry. Dennis Fitzgerald, I appreciate it. And by the way, I am going to make mistakes, so get used to it.
Hi there, folks.
And
From the prophet.
And
But what is it to die? I've forgotten the whole thing. This is going too far. I'm just going to play the song. This is for Scott. This is for all of us. Precious Lord, take my hand, lead me on, help me stand. I am tired, I am weak, I am worn. Through the storm, through the night, make me on to the light. Take my hand, precious Lord, lead me on. When my way grows drear, precious Lord, linger near. When my light is almost gone, hear my cry, hear my call, hold my hand lest I fall. Take my hand, precious Lord, lead me home. When my way goes through, precious Lord, linger me. When the day is almost gone, at the river I'll stand, guide my feet, hold my hand, take my hand, Travel safe, Scotty. Now we got some people with stories to tell.
Michael Finnell, brother of Snotty Scotty. Standing in front of a mic doesn't come as naturally to me as it did to Scott, but I'll do what I can. It's amazing to be here. It's amazing to see all of the love, all the people who meant so much to Scott over the last 30 years. I and his mother and the rest of his family are deeply moved by it all. There's not a lot that I can tell you about Scott, since most of you have known him longer than I have. So I'll try and share a few things pre your knowledge of Scott to give you an idea as to how he got to where he got, how he became Snotty Scotty, and how he created the Hankies. I'm not sure this is exactly how he got there, but there's just a few stories that that come to mind when I think about growing up with Scott, and I'll just share a couple with you. I was in college, and Scott and Skip were living at home, and I was away somewhere, and my mom called me and said, "You got to come home, and you have to come with me down to the Pasadena Police Department." And I said, "Why?" And she said, "Well," and I'm sure many of you knew Skip. Skip's been arrested. And I said, "Well, why do I have to come?" She said, "Well, your dad's going to come, and I don't want to be there alone." So it's all right. And many of you probably knew Dad, and Dad was, the sweetest guy in the world. But, things didn't go exactly right. Sometimes he could get kind of, unhappy. Anyway, so we met at the police department, and we met Detective so-and-so, and he told us what Skip was in for. I won't get into it. But then, so we went upstairs to the lockup, and he said, and he, left his handcuffs and gun with the guy in the lockup. The detective did, and he went inside. He came back out a minute later and he said, "Mr. Finnell, this is kind of embarrassing, but this is to my dad. I'm going to have to place you under arrest." And I'm thinking, this is not going well for Skip. And Dad said, "Why?" And he said, "Well, do you have a car?" I can't remember what car it was. He said, "Do you have a Volkswagen bus or something like that?" And he said, "Well, my son does." And he said, "Well, is it registered in your name?" And he said, "Yeah." And he said, "Well, you've got like $8 million in outstanding car." That was Scott's car. So, and the bail was like, I don't know, $300. So I don't know if you guys remember like 1968 ATMs. A lot of them. So I was given a check and told to go get cash, and I went, got cash, came back to the lockup. Mom's sitting there waiting, and I said, "Mom, here's $300. I'll see you in a couple weeks." So that's story number one about Scott. Story number two, this is more about me than Scott, but it's kind of about Scott. This was a little bit later. This is like during Vietnam. I think I'm out of graduate school. Scott has gotten his 1A and been drafted. And I said, "What are you doing? What are you going to do?" He said, "I said, you going for your physical?" He said, "No, I'm going to Hawaii." I said, "So are you going to go to Hawaii after your physical or before?" And he said, "No, I'm just going to Hawaii." And so this, I don't know, a couple of days later, I said, "Mom, where's Scott?" And she said, "Well, he's at the airport going to Hawaii, or he's on his way there." I said, "You can't do that." I got in the car and ran down to the airport, LAX, and this is kind of pre-TSA, and I ran through the airport and ran on the airplane, and Scott's sitting there, and I said, "You can't get on the plane, you come on, you're going to go to jail." And he looked at me and said, "What are you talking about? I'm going to Hawaii." And I said, "I know, but you've been drafted." He said, "Yeah, Mike, get out of here, I'm going to Hawaii." So I left, and I don't know, I don't know how long it was, a year later. The war was over. Scott never got drafted. He didn't go to jail. And ever since then, I've been known as his idiot brother. final story. My wife and I, Katie, are living in Brussels. I work for a bank. I'm an international banker. You know, I've gone to graduate school. I'm an international banker. I'm sitting in my office one day, and I get the Wall Street Journal every day. I'm like the third guy to get it, but I get it. And I'm reading the Wall Street Journal, and there's a center article in the Wall Street Journal. It's usually kind of a human interest thing, and I start reading it. And they're talking about Skip Finnell and the Doodah Parade. I'm an international banker.
Reading the Wall Street Journal.
Reading the Wall Street Journal here in Brussels in my office. Skip Finnell and the Doodah Parade. This is 1975. No. No, before that. I'm still in Brussels, and it's like 1975, 76. No?
It starts in 78.
78, okay, 78. And I read this article, and I can't believe this. I get to the inside, and they're just talking about the Doodah Parade and how it started and stuff. And then at the end it says, but lest you think, that Skip Finnell is just nobody. His brother is, and I'm thinking, here it is. Snotty Scotty. So, here it is, my moment of fame. Thank you very much. I do want to thank Liz for putting this all together.
It's a big committee, a big family.
It's a huge family. Huge.
We all work together.
Huge. I want to thank Joan Allen for taking such incredible care of my brother. For helping organize and help out, and everybody else. I want to thank Mom for taking care of us all these many years. I am going to outlive you.
Oh my God, don't be so sure. I don't think she's going anywhere.
Thank you all for being big fans of Snotty Scotty, and
big friends.
And thank you all for being here, and hope to see all of you.
My family moved to Belmar Way in 1963, and I met Scott, and we immediately started throwing dirt clods at each other.
Can't hear you.
And what a great guy. I can't tell you all the stories that I have, but what an amazing friend. Just an amazing friend. And what I'm going to miss the most about that guy is he had so much knowledge inside that head of his. So much musical knowledge. Just incredible. We used to play games, tease with each other, play Jeopardy of music and songs and stuff like that. I could never beat him. Every once in a while I'd get one on him. Scotty, I'm going to miss you, man. Travel well. Adios.
Snotty was a pretty great guy, and I just wanted to know, I finally got some white bucks, Scott. Finally got them. Been a long time. I'd like to introduce a guy that has known Scott and played in a couple of bands with him, and I played in bands with him. His name is John Washburn. Come on, get up here, John.
Okay, folks, I hate doing this kind of thing. Much rather have the lights low, and music going, Anyway, I thought what I was going to say, how I was going to put this together, but I met Scott, I do believe, I know the year, it was 1969. It was either through Peter or it was at the pantry, because I just made a new friend, Tom Nyurgis, 1969, and he was working in the pantry. So you think back that far, 45 years, and there's just like these little moments, right? These little moments when you remember somebody and something happened. So I remember Scott checking out, going, hey, how you doing, man? Checking stuff out. Then, I heard the band, and I hired them. They played played at one of my parties in December, I think it was 1970. Used to throw these New Year's parties, and this wasn't on New Year's that year, but it was a big bash. And so that's another image. The band was still wearing the wigs. Scott playing bass in my pool house. Sturgis Martin over here, I think Steve over here, Jack Buck back there. And then we had a great blues jam with a little young guitar player. Some people, you might know his name, Johnny Driscoll, who was just like a hot blues guitar player at age 16. Anyway, so that was the second image. The story I want to tell is, so some of you know the fairy tales about the house that was, what street was that on?
Los Robles?
No, way before that, way before. The Catalina house. Okay, Peter Sullivan and a buddy of his rented this house. We were all like 19, okay? They rented this house, and then all their friends moved in. Scott didn't move in, but I mean, it turned into like the party house. Then Scott rented a place across the street with his girlfriend at the time, Becky Colton. And we used to hang out there all the time. So anyway, you know, we weren't old enough to go to bars yet. We were like 19, 20 years old. So, you know, you had to come up with your own fun, which was all the time, right? Most people aren't working at that age. So somebody said, let's throw ourselves a big party up in the mountains. You know, we'll take bands up there, we'll rent a, you know, what do they call it? Generator. Right, see, I'm getting nervous. We'll rent a generator, and the Hankies will play, and P.D. Westman's band will play, and everyone will jam, and it'll just be great. So we said, yeah. So we did it. 40 kids head up in the mountains, you know, with as much acid and weed and uppers, downers, and sideways, inside-outers they could find, and brought all their camping stuff. So the Hankies played, Petey's band played, went on, and so next thing you know, it's like 3 o'clock in the morning, and the last jammers, you know, could barely play an E chord. They're up there playing, and this is like, okay, it's kind of a long story, but this was a bowl, so this trail came down like this, and there was a stage, and I was parked with my gear over here, and I jammed, and anyway, it was 3 o'clock, okay, everything's done with the music, and I thought, you know, I want to have one more bowl of weed before, you know, finally crashing. Tom Dillon was there, some people, you know, Tom from way back in the 70s, and Scotty was right there, you know, his gear was over there, but he was over next to the stage, and I said, hey guys, I want one bowl. So we're going like this, right? Scott has his back to the trail and the stage. All of a sudden I see 2 rangers coming down that trail with flashlights. They're coming fast, but only 2. You know, there's like 40 kids out here, spread out in the dark. They see the stage, they see us over there, they come right over. They come right over, and I roll over like that, and I had my dog with me, and he's just like barking his ass off, so this cop's not gonna bug me, this dog's gonna bite us. So first they interrogate Dylan and say, hey, you know, are you a man or a woman? You know, he had his sleeping bag over his head, and he just kind of said nothing. And then they said, who are you? You know, you stand up. Scott stands up, and my bag of weed falls down. It was like in his lap, I guess. I mean, who knows at this point? I'm just looking for my sleeping bag. And so then they go, what's this? And you know, then they pick it up. They know what it is. They threw the cuffs on Scotty. They marched him out of that place while 40 of us watched. Nobody else was arrested. They left. I mean, these rangers thought, you know, we're overmatched. There's 40 kids. So they wanted to make a statement. So here's Scott. This is the view I had of him marching up the trail and out. You probably remember this. You had to go bail him out of jail, didn't you? Yeah.
I missed that one.
And then my friend said, you know, we're getting the hell out of here as soon as the sun comes up. We got out of there, just sailed right back to Pasadena. We found out later that the CHP had thrown up a roadblock. Everybody young people coming out of that campground was searched. All the underage kids were arrested. This was all, you know, it was my fault that Scott got arrested. It was my weed. I said, one more bowl before we hit this. Anyway, that was the story I wanted to tell. And then there's this one, that's kind of a happy story. So anyway, I don't even think I ever formally apologized. So I'd like to apologize now to Scott for having done that to him. But so I moved out of Pasadena, and I moved back in '78, and this is when the softball games at Grant Park were really got going. I mean, we used to play 2 games a week in those days. We played an afternoon game during the week. You remember that, Steve? We played Sunday and then Thursday until the sun went down. So there was one Sunday, and we used to use PCC's field as a backup. So at Grant Park, there was a picnic or something, we'd go there, oh shit, we gotta go to PCC. So we'd go down there and play. So one Sunday, and this wasn't long after Melissa was born. So we're out there warming up, we're playing, a lot of guys are there, and I'm out in left field playing, and then this car pulls up, and Scott jumps out with Melissa. She's like this little big, right? And I've never seen Scott so animated, so charged up, and he's just coming right over, and he wants everybody to see his new little girl. And those are my 3 images of Scott in the 70s. Anyway, thank you.
Stop it right now, my thing. Stop it right here. You stop.
Thanks, John. Now I'd like to introduce Joan Allen.
Well, I'd like to start by thanking all of you who helped in those last 2 short days of Scott's life. And I'm not going to name you because I'll forget someone, but you all know who you are. And there were many more, it doesn't matter, because there were so many more lined up if we'd had more time to organize who would have been there and who had volunteered. I'm sorry that Scott didn't get to see that Dylan is refusing to accept his Nobel Prize. I think he would have appreciated that moment. Kind of a Snotty Scotty move. Scott's first hospitalization that I experienced was quite dramatic. His friend Tony helped to bring him to Arcadia Methodist, and Scott decided, I really want out of here. I'm going to make a run for it. And so I called his sister-in-law, Liz. I thought, on a Saturday, she'd been working all week. I called her Saturday morning and I said, Liz, I can't handle this. Get over here. So Liz came. And the minute Scott saw Liz, he thought, oh, I'm free now. So the hospital put a GPS on him. And Scott was going all over the stairwells. And they said he takes 1 step off of the sidewalk, we're never treating him, he can never come here again. So Liz and I were furiously running up and down the stairwells, and they were getting readings of him saying he's on 70, he's on 5 South. But anyway, we finally got him back, and when we did, he became much more docile after that. But I told him, I said, we were just trying to help you. And he said, I know. So, one thing about Scott, we all know very different Scotts, but in another way, I think we all know the same Scott. And one thing I think of with Scott is that he really didn't have time in his life to hold anything against anybody. That's one thing I really learned from him. He really learned to let go of things. As you know, he didn't let anyone fool with him. I have to say that, my granddaughter is here. But if somebody he thought crossed him or rubbed him the wrong way, he let go of it within about 5 days maximum. Because he had other things to do. And he and his mother Betty had the most wonderful relation. There was always a special energy when Scott talked to Betty. They talked a lot about politics, but mostly about music, rock and roll, and I think she was the beginning of his love of rock and roll. But sometimes on the phone they would get into these huge rows, and I'd think, oh my goodness, they're never going to talk to each other ever again. And then by that evening, they'd both be on the phone saying, I'm sorry, I love you. So it was really beautiful to see that. So I guess I'd like to end with saying one of Scotty-isms. Some of you will probably recognize this one, probably particularly ex-girlfriends and wives. Scott would say, later, much later. So I'd like us all to toast Scott and say, later, much later.
Dad, where's up? Oh, there. Cheers. Good job.
Yeah, come on, get up here. Yeah. Peter Burke, ladies and gentlemen. Drummer extraordinaire.
Hi everybody, I'll make it brief, I have to go. But my favorite Scotty story is as follows. We were dripping sweat after playing a set at the Old Town Pub. It was the Loch Ness Monster. And they were having punk rock concerts at Perkins Palace, or whatever that was called in Raymond, right? And so I'm out there dripping sweat, and I'm talking to Scotty. I said, F all those punk rockers, the Hanky's this, the Hanky's that, the Hanky's this, and he went, Peter, what? I ain't a Hanky.
Everybody knows he was Snotty Scotty. He was not a Hanky. Thank you very much. Now I'd like to, and now it's and the Hankies. Now I'd like to bring up Sierra Madre Sue. She'd like to say a few words.
This is something I didn't write down, but Joan made me think of it. Sometimes when we were sitting around on a Sunday afternoon at the Buck, our friend Deanna likes to play games. We can't just have a regular conversation about nothing. We got to play some games. So there were 8 of us sitting at the table, and this was when Joan was kind of new in our world, Joan and Scotty's relationship. And we played this little game where everybody had little strips of paper, and we went around the table, and we each wrote one word about that person, and then we all passed in our little pieces of paper to that person, and then they read them aloud, and we laughed or started conversations or tried to guess who wrote what. So there were 8 of us at the table, and we all wrote one word about Joan. And when she read them, they were words like patient, saintly, tolerant. You getting my drift? Yeah, 5 out of the 8 people wrote words along those lines. And Scotty was like, what? What do you mean? That was early on in the relationship. Anyway, Billy Booger is my older brother, obviously, so is Snotty Scotty, right? My sister and I are the sisters Booger. Tom was in Pecos, but my pals and I, we weren't even old enough to get into those bars in Old Town yet, but we were already going to Chromos and Loch Ness and the Love-In and all those fun things in the Doodah Parade. And then when Tom joined the band in 1980, I became a Loch Ness regular and was there, whether they were there on a Thursday or a Friday or a Saturday or whatever it was. That also opened up the world to Hazel's and Vitale's. A lot of these places I went by myself. You could park your car for free in Old Town and go to 6 dive bars and see live music. And I would stand in the back of the room, never approach the bar because I wasn't old enough, but plenty of people brought me beers. So I witnessed some pretty crazy Hanky antics. And in the early days, one time I was on the freeway and I was making the transition from the 134 to the 2, but just as I was exiting, I thought I saw Snotty Scotty in the passenger seat of this truck, and in the back of the truck was that big rack with all those giant panes of glass in the back of the truck. Was that Snotty Scotty? So this is like 82 or something, no cell phone. So later that evening, when I was home, I called my brother on the phone. I said, I think I saw Snotty Scotty on the freeway and with all these big panes of glass in the truck. And he goes, well, yeah, that's what he does. That's his day job. He's a glazier. He installs giant panes of glass. And I was like, wait a minute, what? That guy who I see shit-faced on the stage, puking out the window at the at the Loch Ness, at the Loch Ness in the middle of a song, that guy handles big panes of glass during the day and he still has all his fingers? Yeah. Oh, there's his boss. Well, then later he did install some small panes of glass at my own house, and he made my sliding glass door slide like butter. But that experience, seeing him and knowing that that's what he did during the day, and then seeing him at night, elevated him to a whole new level in my mind. And I likened it to, because I'm a baseball fan, I likened it to Babe Ruth, at night, eating porterhouse steaks, drinking whiskey, smoking cigars, and then hitting home runs the next day. That was Snotty Scotty right then and there. And I brought a lot of people to see the Hankies, and my brother used to say to me, now don't build us up too much. Don't tell your friends that you're taking them to see this band. Just tell them you're going to this pub, Loch Ness. And then, if they like the band, then, that's just icing on the cake. So another time, I was giving Scotty a ride home from, he played a gig in Santa Barbara when my brother Steve was at UCSB, and they played in Isla Vista. Woo! And Melissa was with Scotty, and I think Melissa was like 6 or 7 years old, maybe 7, because my son, Matt, was like 1.5 years. So I was driving home, and everybody in the car was asleep, except me. I was driving, obviously. Scotty and Melissa were in the back seat, and my son was in the front seat. That was when it was okay to have your car seat in the front seat. I dropped them off at a place on California Boulevard in Pasadena, Scotty and Melissa. I went home, and I didn't know until the next day that Scotty had thrown up all down the side of the door in the back seat. Never said a word about it, but he was passed out, so he might not have even known. So I saw him a few times over the next couple weeks. He never said a word about it. And then like 2-3 weeks later, I'm at the Loch Ness, standing in the back of the room, leaning up against that pillar, and in the middle of a song, he chooses to apologize to me over the microphone. In front of the whole room in a very colorful way. Like only Snotty Scotty could. He never said a word to me about it up close in person, but over the microphone he did. There were other road trips that were memorable. He played at my brother Rick's 50th birthday party in Santa Rosa, and many of you in the room went to that. Jorgie's Bar in Vista, California, PJ's, that was awesome. And Lone Pine. I have 2 Lone Pine stories. Lone Pine, the double L. Maybe you've been there. Maybe you haven't. But we organized the 20-fan caravan with Snotty Scotty and the Hankies to Lone Pine, and a lot of you in the room were in on that 20-fan caravan, and we took over the town. We took over this one motel that was across from the Double L bar and another little motel down the street. And I don't know where we organized it, but we're going to show those Lone Pine people how to party. We're from Pasadena. We're Snotty Scotty and the Hankies. We're going to show them. Boy, did they show us. There were all these Frenchies from the Crystal Geyser factory there that night, celebrating somebody's birthday. A fight broke out in the ladies' room, barreled out, onto the floor. I think Bruin had his foot out, guarding the stage, because there was this late, girl fight going on, and they were dancing on the bars and stuff, and we were just we were jaw dropped, they showed us. But then some of the caravan and half of the band stayed for the next night, and we kind of did it all over again with an acoustic version of that. Okay, so then later, I think it was the same year, or the following year, but it was in September, and there was another Lone Pine trip. And I didn't go because my sister was having her 50th shindig at Matt Denny's, and Tom's other band was playing. So I didn't go on that trip. So Vargas and I are arriving at Matt Denny's. We get out of the car, and my cell phone rings, and it's Scotty. And I'm like, hey, Scotty. Scotty's calling me from Lone Pine. How cool. Hey, Scotty. Hi, Susie. Sorry you're not here with us. He's one of the few people who can call me Susie, by the way. Sorry you're not up here with us, but you know, we're gonna try to have a good time anyway. Tell Ellen happy birthday. So we're walking towards Matt Denny's and Vargas goes, are you sure they're in Lone Pine? I said, what do you mean? He goes, I can hear his voice. I can hear his voice. I can hear him laughing right now. And we round the corner, and there's Scotty right outside the back door of Matt Denny's going, ha ha, gotcha, we didn't go. What do you mean he didn't go? He said, well, we didn't go. None of you guys could go, so we decided to come here instead. I said, well, did you cancel? He said, no, we just didn't show. I said, you'll be blackballed in Lone Pine. You'll never play Lone Pine again. And he said, so? Yeah, he said, no, that wasn't the first time we were a no-show and probably wouldn't be the last. Okay. Okay. Woo. All right. Okay. There was a memorable series of pictures I couldn't find for the slideshow, which we're going to run the slideshow again, and you'll be able to see it. And this was just, you know, still pictures on my camera, but I couldn't find them. And this was the Hankies playing at my friend Art Lieber's family party before they sold their house in Poolside. And we had recently made contact, or Scotty had, with the guy in Sierra Madre who plays the theremin. Do you know that? The vibration theremin, you don't touch it with your hands. And I had seen him at Trader Joe's that day. I said, hey, Snotty Scotty's playing tonight at my friend's house. Why don't you bring your theremin and come? So he came. So Bruin and the theremin guy are playing Sleepwalk. You all know the song? So Scotty assumes the position. And he starts sleepwalking down the length of the pool. There's all these people sitting at umbrella tables and stuff, and most of them aren't even paying any attention at all. And Scotty's just sleepwalking down the side of the pool. And then he gets to the end, and he turns, and he walks right into the pool. Clothes, watch, cigarettes, cell phone. He goes right into the pool. Hi, Matt. And I was taking still pictures the whole way, and down at the end of the pool, I have a picture of Peter Burke and my sister at the end of the pool. And Peter Burke's going like this. My sister's going like this. Yeah. And most of the people at the party thought he was pushed. He was not. All right. I could have written 10 pages, I whittled it down to 3. Okay, so lastly, I just want to thank my big brother Scotty for all the things you let us talk you into. The outfits, the props, the fabulous prizes, the national anthem at softball at Grant Park softball, as well as the Buccaneers softball team just in the last couple of years. We would have him come to Heasley and sing the national anthem, much to the dismay of the other team or the umpire, who did not know what to make of the whole thing. The block parties, the campouts, the spontaneous jams, and the free shows you did for me. I always tried to make sure you had beer, tips, and maybe food. Thank you for the bridge, for Doodah, Hanky Ween, Hanky De Mayo, David Letterman, and whatever other crazy antics we could come up with. You were always a good sport for all seasons, and our musical calendar is going to be pretty empty from now on.
Billy Booger.
I'm the artist formerly known as Billy Booger. How much time do I have? Because I got a lot of stuff.
5 minutes.
back in the, real quick, I'm going to go through a couple things here. So back in the late 70s or sometime, my buddy Vince introduced me to this guy, Saul Wright. And we were talking about, we both played in bands, and we went, Vince calls me up and says, we got to go see Ted's band, they're a crack up. So we go to this place called the Loch Ness Monster Pub. I'd never been there before. And we saw this band called Snotty Scotty and the Hankies. And Ted was playing bass. And I went in there, just it was full of people, playing all these songs that I like. Scotty looked like he hadn't washed his hair in a week or so. It was the wood floor, it smelled. I remember they had like this skinny table in front of them. It seems like each guy had their own pitcher of beer, which they might even been drinking out of the pitcher. And I was struck by the fact that although I'd played in bands before, these guys looked like they weren't playing for the people, they were just playing for themselves. And they were having a really good time. And that's what struck me about them. So I became a Hanky fan. And I used to go see them at Chromo's. Where Chromo's, if you remember, you walk in from the street and there's the bar. You go down half a flight of stairs, there were some pinball machines. Then you go down another half a flight and there was this big cavernous room. So I used to go there with my friend Mike Cheney and see the Hankies, you know, a lot often. And so we're playing and he goes, they take a break, he goes, I'm going to go say hi to those guys. I'm going to go talk to those guys. I go, okay, so he goes down there. 10 minutes later, he comes up and goes, I go, how'd that go? He goes, those guys are assholes. Okay, cool. And anyway, you know, they had this big cavernous room, and I know the judge had some lights that shined up, and had these, you know, 20-foot shadows behind him, and people were spinning around. And later, I found out it was Meg and Toucan Fran, and you know, you people, you know. So then, I don't know, sometime around 1980, I get home, and I'm living with my sister Sue, and she goes, and I don't know any of these guys at all, I'm just a fan. She goes, Snotty Scotty called, and he wants you to call him about some gainful employment. So, the rest is history. Here I am. So, we were playing at the, my first gig was probably at Vitale's, and like you know, I'm looking at you, Ted. And I don't know, the first gig or two, somebody makes a crack. Hey, Scotty, who's that playing your drums? Who's playing drums? Is that your little brother? And I became Scotty's little brother. And I don't know who named me Billy Booger, but a lot of you people think my name's Bill. Right? Billy Booger? Yeah. So, anyway, enough about me. I'm not here to talk about me. I'm here to talk about Snotty Scotty. Right? What about Snotty Scotty? What about Snotty Scotty, the songwriter? What about when he said, hanging out with thugs, that's you guys, taking lots of drugs, looking under rugs for my personality, trying hard not to make it, right? Scott, autobiographical, right? What about Scotty expressing himself over his relationship? I fathered your child, and you used it as an excuse to drive me away. I refuse to eat my heart out anymore. There's only one thing that I can do. I'm going down to Erica's. What about his social statement on the world? Steve, you can help me out with this one because I don't remember all the words, but when we were younger, our lives were so simple. Sucking a sucker or popping a pimple. And then what's the one about the rich man and poor man and the issues we choose to ignore? Remember that one?
No, it's way too far.
Scotty wrote some good songs. Hey, what about Snotty Scotty? And by the way, when I joined the band, I took over from this drummer. Steve, come on up here with me, because I want a little participation here. Do you guys know this guy? Steve, Hot Coffee Brewing. Hi, everybody. Okay, when I took over playing drums, there was a guy named Danny Hernandez before me, and he said to me, Snotty Scotty is the funniest man in the world, and I got the best seat in the house. What about Snotty Scotty's sense of humor?
Yeah,
rye, I guess, on rye. It's hard to say. If he insulted you, he meant it in the nicest possible way. He didn't want you to go away mad, just wanted you to go away. He loved it if you laughed with him, but he just was ecstatic if you laughed at him. He'd much rather, I mean, he would give me a look out of the corner of his eye, over his glasses, you know the look. Because he realized he did his job right. Because people were busting up, because he made an idiot of himself. You know, and he got paid to make an idiot of himself. He taught me how to make an idiot of myself. And the band, it just kind of became that way. People love to come and watch us and go, at least we're not them. We're going to go home and they're not going to be there. And you guys kept coming. You kept coming, whether we sucked or whether we were great. You know, you can't go without mentioning Chester, Krill on the violin. At Blair High School, I couldn't tell my friends that I was in a band that had a violin player. And they're all playing Deep Purple and all that. And I'm going, ding, 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 I'm the type of guy. You know? I could not tell my peers that I was doing the 50s act with a wig on at night and going to Blair during the day. So they didn't even know I was in a band, most of them.
Remember when Scotty used to do we do a Doors jam, and we'd get in the middle of it, and he'd start talking about stuff, and he would go, Father, yes son, I want to mow the lawn. Mother, yes son, I want to do my homework.
I thought it was the dishes.
Remember when we used to sing Our Last Kiss, and he would bend over and give her the last kiss, and remember what she said back to him? Because of all the lacerations and the blood she was choked out. Right? He changed all these songs to be his own song, right?
Whether they wanted to hear it or not, I was thinking like, there's like children over there, and he's you know, this is a song that used to be a tearjerker in the 50s. I mean, people would cry over it. He's totally bastardizing the thing to crack us up. I thought the band, you know, just to crack us up, but everybody caught on.
Remember when we would do Get Off of My Cloud, and he told the story about how he was at the Playboy Mansion and Hugh Hefner and Dennis Weaver was there, and he busted in the room and had to say, hey Hugh, get off of my cloud. Remember that one?
They were a waffle, I think.
Remember when the piece of string walked in the bar?
I'm afraid not.
Remember when the horse walked in the bar?
And the kooky story.
The Kooky Burns, yes, Kooky Burns, our personal buddy. I said, I dare you. We were at Jane Mansfield's house playing a party for American Entertainment. Don Podler, our manager, and they had a heart-shaped pool with sand around it. And we're leaving, and Ed Kooky Burns from 77th Sunset Strip, I believe, comes walking into the party late. The party was over. And I dared him. I said, go over there, ask him for his comb. Come on. You gotta go ask Kooky for his comb. And he did. Scott went over and asked him. I stood there with my guitar around the bushes watching, and Kooky says, I must be at the wrong party, and left. Scott chased him out. The party was over anyway, but he would take a dare for sure. You know, to get a laugh. Even if he made it at the risk of himself being a fool or getting in trouble even. If, you know, he'd lose a great relationship of years of friendship just to make some stranger laugh. He'd trash a whole, you know, he'd make up 10 minutes later, but he'd say, well, why'd you throw me under the bus? Well, that guy over there thought I was funny. That's my guy.
So, is Dargan here anywhere? Dargan? We used to play the Loch Ness every week to a packed house, and one guy I used to see out there was Dargan. You guys know Dargan? Yeah. You know, he'd be out there with a cheap glass of beer, with a smile, you know, ear-to-ear grin, and I would say, one time I went out there and I said, you know, you're a recording engineer, right? You work with like really good musicians, so you know what good music is, right? But I see you here every week, just like, this is the happiest time of your life, you're just grinning ear to ear, and he said this to me. It never ceases to tickle me how you guys can F up an old song in a new way every time you play. Bam. And since Scotty's been gone, all you people have been posting pictures and videos, and Peter Wilson's winning, but it's not a contest, but he's winning. But, you know, I'm watching all these videos in a new way because I'm not looking at the band and who's playing drums, and I'm watching Scotty, and I'm noticing that he sang every song in a different way every time he sang it. And, you know, the stage moves he did with the random claps, and remember how he used to swing the mic right under there, and he used to do the hunk of burning love, and, you know, the tambourine thing, and he had moves, and like he was cracking up himself. He had to change the words in the song so we could like it, you know, cracking us all up. What about his outfits? The gold lame suit, the purple long johns from head to toe,
the colander on his head. Space helmet, I think. Hi, Ernie. Scotty's old boss here, one of Scott's bosses. Ernie, our float driver for the last 20 years or so.
Ernie drove a float for many years. That red truck and all the trucks, that was Ernie. And Scott used to work for Ernie at Live Oak Glass. That's Ernie right there. Hey, you don't have to work on Sunday, by the way, you guys. No more. Yeah. Okay.
And thank you.
We got a million more stories, but they're telling to wrap it up, right? Wrap it up.
We're not wrapping it up, we're just wrapping this part up.
And now the
Okay, Ernie would like to say a couple of words.
And then after Ernie,
we're going to open it up to some music.
Okay, folks, I'm Ernie Aragon. I own Live Oak Glass. I first met Scotty in 1967 when he was working for his dad in the glass shop. Constantly after that, we were intertwined on different things. I didn't spend a lot of time on music because I was racing motorcycles. Then Scotty's father closed his glass shop and he came to me for a job. Well, I hired him, but it was kind of hard to keep him off the juice. And he was on a job in Monrovia where it was a restoration job and the glass cost like $18 a square foot. And the customer called me about 2 o'clock in the afternoon. He says, "This guy has broken 4 pieces of glass and he's so drunk he can't carry the glass." So I went up there and I told Scott, "Scott, you're fired." He came back to work the next day and he says, "Ernie, I'm sorry I did it. Can I come back to work?" I said, "No." Well, about 6 months later he came back to me and I said, "Well, Scott, you've always done a good job if you stay sober. Are you off the sauce?" And he said, "Oh yeah, never." Well, he worked for me about 1.5 years and all of a sudden they called me on another job and he couldn't even drive the truck. Well, to make it a little short, we had probably 20 years of relationships, and I've never rehired anybody, but Scott I rehired 6 times. Listen to this, because he had a heart of gold, and he only thought of the best thing for his employer. But he couldn't stay off the sauce. Now, another little story. In 2002, this is a little later, I was inducted into the Motorcycle Racing Hall of Fame. And I hadn't seen Scotty for about 1.5 years. And this was all the way in Buena Park. The festivities were going on, and during the presentation of my medal, Scotty came in and he says, "I want to do something for my friend." He got up on the stage and he played Route 66. And incidentally, I've driven Scott with his band in the Doodah Parade, I think since 1976. And first of all, and I'm also the devil in the Doodah. No more.
Are you the devil in the sidecar?
Yes.
That was me.
And I just tell you, he had a heart of gold and is a person that you can never forget. Thank you.
And now our final speaker will be Matt Mello. Scott's nephew. He's his son.
Yeah, Maddie.
Thank you all for having me. It's kind of hard to get out. It's good to see everybody here. Thank you for coming. There's so many memories that I want to say, but I just want to say that I love you, Betty, and
Step up to the mic.
what a great mother, grandmother, and some of my best memories of Scott are seeing him at the Loch Ness with my mom and Rebecca, and ever since he put me on stage, I felt like I was part of the band, and you know, him playing a song at my mom's funeral was a gift that he gave to me, and I cherish that for the rest of my life. You know, in life, you make a career out of what you get, but you make a life out of what you give. And Scott gave his music and his friendship to all of us, and he will be remembered but never forgotten. So, thank you.
Now, before I close this part of the show, I wanted to say a couple of words myself. I knew Scott, and I knew Snotty Scotty, and I know I loved them both. I know that Scott was really a gentle, kind soul, and I loved him dearly. And I know Snotty Scotty was a character, and I loved him too, and I'm going to miss them both dearly. Thank you. And now we're going to play some music.
I call it a pie face. Got a big old, mine's got a big old pie face. But I think mine's going to, I think he's going to, Okay. Am I on camera now? Yeah. Okay. Hi, my name is Susan Wilson, and I'm married to Mark Reed. And I met Scotty many, many years ago. And actually Loch Ness, I can remember as the first place. And there's like a lot of memories we had over the many, many years. And seeing each other at weddings, doodah parades, music in bars, softball games, absolutely. He's a wonderful guy, and I always felt comfortable around him. And a really beautiful person with a really good heart. So thank you, Scotty, for the wonderful memories that we shared together. Anything you would like to add, Mark?
Yes, I didn't know him as long, but I do know I had to ask his permission to marry her. That's a fact. He approved.
Thank you. Yeah, I'm Hank Dorn. I'm a old friend of Scotty's, and we had some very nice times together, and I always enjoyed the music that he put down, and it was fun. And I even forget, because I'm old and I forget all the places, but there was a place in Fair Oaks where you went down the basement, and there was a place up the street on Fair Oaks where we used to watch him. And what's the name of it? Hazel's. And what was the place in the basement?
The Block House and Vitality.
No, where you went down down the stairs to get into it. It was on Fair Oaks. I don't know, but anyway, that was fun. It was all fun, and Scotty's always going to be remembered by everyone. He was a good man, and a fun person for me to be around. I miss you, Scotty. Adios.
My name is John Burton, yes. And John, tell me how you knew Scott. Well, actually, I knew Skip better than Scott because we were in Blair together. But Scott was the older brother and the rock star, you know. But like Skip was the funniest motherfucker I ever met in my life. I mean, he was one of these guys who you could just say, "Hey, good morning," and you would split your side. My favorite story with Skip is this. Skip had this green pickup truck. Excuse me. I gotta tell this story, my favorite story about Skip. Because he had a old green pickup truck, and Michael had an upright piano. And so we needed to move the piano because we were moving out of the Hill Street house. So Skip said he'd move it for us. And so we get the pickup truck, we put the piano in the back with the bench. Michael gets in the back, and we're driving uphill on Orange Grove, and Michael starts playing Boogie Woogie on his piano while we're driving the pickup truck up Orange Grove. And we get stuck in traffic right in front of what we used to call Cancer Corner, which was, you know, Summit, where all these like winos were there. And Michael's just playing this Barrel House Boogie Woogie. Skip's driving, and all these like winos are coming out, and they're like, their mouths are open, you know, and they got their little bottles and stuff going, wow. And Skip doesn't miss a beat and just looks at him and says, "I can't afford a radio." I mean, it was the funniest thing I ever heard in my life.
Hi, my name is Missy Mello, and I am married to Matt Mello. And Matt is the nephew of Scotty. And I guess I've known Scotty for about maybe 9 years, maybe 10 now, actually. Forgetting how long I've been with Matt. And he was just amazing. I know him mostly through Grandma Betty, who is Matt's grandma, so she is now my grandma, and my kid's great-grandma. So every time we go see Betty, Scott would be there, and he was just an amazing guy. I know I don't know him as long. Yeah. I know I don't know him as long as everybody else does, but he made an impact on me, and he was really funny, really nice, really good to Matt. And really good to Betty, and that means a lot to both Matt and I. Alrighty.
My name is Matthew Stephen Mello.
I didn't know your middle name.
What was that?
I didn't know your middle name. Where did that come from?
I have no idea. There's it was either it was Stephen or maybe Scott or something like that.
I remember when you were born.
You do? I don't, yes.
You don't remember?
No. I just want to thank you for all the beautiful, wonderful videos you've taken and appreciate it. Yes. I want to see the rest of them, so if you get a chance, let's connect.
So, do you have a memory of your Uncle Scott? Something that pops in your mind you can think about?
Yeah, most definitely. Well, just all the different times of watching him play and be himself on stage, be the character and rebel that he was in full effect. He carried himself with a lot of just. There's no other word besides being Snotty Scotty. You know, he was just that's who he was. But my best memory is definitely of him singing a wonderful song to my mom on her funeral. That was a great day and beautiful song.
Thanks, man.
You're welcome.
Can I go? Hi, my name is Polly, and Scott and I share a dad, so he's my half-brother. And I have two things I want to say about him. The first time I met him, he made me cry because he came to my parents' house, and I didn't know that I had a brother, or more brothers and a sister, but he came to the door, and I was like, who are you? He's like, I'm your brother. What are you talking about? I don't have a brother. I don't know who you are, my brother. And then the next thing is that Scott's older than me, obviously. And then when I became of drinking age and got to strut around Pasadena and go to bars, I got myself real fluffed up. When I started coming to bars in Pasadena, I would be like, you don't know who I am? Snotty Scotty's sister. Shouldn't I be getting like all the free drinks? And they'd be like, actually no, you, the fuck out of here. Yeah, you probably are a troublemaker. You need to go. And I was like, what are you talking about? I'm a Finnell. I'm Scott's sister. Yeah, I guess it depended on where I was going and what was going on, but it sure made me, I was like a little puffed up. We got a little puffed up.
You saw him perform?
Yeah. You know, it was super fun. I think like a few times I saw him on, because I used to work at Jake's. I was a cocktail waitress at Jake's for a few years. And we would oftentimes just, we would oftentimes just go around, and see him.
Telling a book or a story here.
Yeah, I know.
Keep going.
So actually, I was also thinking that how odd it is that, Scott is so comfortable in front of the mic, and none of the other Finnells can sing. They can't handle a mic properly, and am I? And nobody can dance. I mean, he might not have been the best dancer, but finding a beat isn't like in our. It's not really in our nature, except for him, oddly enough. Yeah, so maybe he is the adopted one. All right, there you go.
Now, who are these other two?
That's my brother, so that's Scott's brother, that's his wife.
Let's talk to Matt's wife.
Okay, cool.
I gotta go pee.
Okay, she has to go pee, so you gotta talk.
But can I go back in that way? Because that door won't open unless, let me see if they can open it. Okay.
You can probably get through. Oh, are you gonna talk?
What's your name?
Jason Finnell.
And you're Scott's brother.
Scott's brother.
The youngest.
I actually met you when you were like this.
Really? Wow. You remember him?
Well, I didn't recognize him, but I remember knowing who you were.
Yeah, well, how would you recognize him with all this scruff and everything? Yeah. That's cool. So talk.
Do you have anything you can tell me about Scott? Story, describe it.
Well, the only thing I remember Scott being one of the most easygoing, fun-loving. He just had a really good attitude. Scott always had a really good attitude.
No, I don't give a shit attitude, and just like he was just.
Well, just happy. It's like he always. He's
got him down.
And I wish you could say it was a glass is half full, but I mean, life just seemed always really, he just really enjoyed life. That's what I really remember about Scott. Always smiling and
having a good time.
But also doting over Betty.
Yeah.
I remember, because I remember being in Pasadena during the holidays and at Christmas, and Scott would come, I would be there and Scott would be there, and Scott was always just, he just had a great attitude on life. He had a great perspective on, and it's not because his pocket was filled with $100 bills, it's just he recognized his blessings more so than I think. I wish I had half the attitude Scott did. I think I'd probably have a lot less grays and I'd probably, live a little longer. But what I remember him is just his awesome attitude and the way he just doted over Betty.
I just want to say that it is actually like it's like an honor. I feel so honored to be at Finnell, and I feel so honored to be around all these people tonight that knew him like in a way that I didn't. You know, like I saw him at Christmas and St. Patrick's Day, and it's super heartwarming to see all these people here that loved him. And I just want to do a big shout out to Betty for being like, dude, that woman's a rock, dude. I don't know what I would do, you know, to be in her shoes. And she lost weight, she lost too much too soon, and then she's still here, like she's here like bright as a diamond, and just, you know, it must be so great for her to see all this love for her kid, and then she made that, you know, they made that kid, and that was it. And that's all I want to say.
My name is Michael Hunt, Mike Hunt Wilson. They used to call me Mike Hunt in school. And, well, I was friends with Skip really first. Skip first. Skip was a St. Philip's boy, so was Scott. And they knew all my friends at Catholic school, St. Philip's. And it's across from PCC. So that's how I got to know Skip first, Scott later. Wait, there's a break. Oh, I'm supposed to take a break. Oh no, we're on! Scott, here's some money. Scott, I'm giving you money. Here, come on back. Come on back and grab this. I know you're there. You're on. Let's see. Einstein said there's a timeline, and you're on it. Reel it in. Come on back and get this. We got some money for you, Scott. Woo, baby. You did so well tonight. Woo! Love you, man. Miss you. Stay well. Mama said, come on. My doctor said, take it easy. Oh, but your loving is much too strong. I'm headed to your change.
My name's Tom Lansing, and I've been a lifelong fan of Snotty Scotty and the Hanky since the early 80s. He played my wedding in 1994 in Ojai, California. I'm good friends with Baby Booger, Stevie Behrens, Billy Booger, Tom Behrens, and the whole Hanky family for many years. And I just want to say what a great loss we have all taken. But what a great night we've given him. We'll never forget you, Snotty. We love you.
So when was the wedding they played at?
1994.
And has the marriage
He's happily married for however many years that is.
Very good. It seems like
Solid people. Solid people. And thank you for all the many years of happiness and joy and the light that you bring us all. We love you and we'll miss you dearly.
Thank you.
Thanks to Michael, I got like ushered into the whole world of Old Town. Chromos,
He's responsible for that?
well, him and all my older brothers and sisters paved the way for me to be like accepted immediately. It felt really good, and it was magical. We were like, Chromos was like a magic place, you could go in there. I was 18, I could go walk right in and buy a beer.
Do you remember the first time you met Snotty Scotty?
Well, I don't really remember the first time, but I remember it was in the early 70s. I was a fan at the minute I saw those guys. I thought, this is us. This is what Pasadena is,
The guy was cool.
Yeah, and I got really close with him for a while when I got married. And,
the whole family was cool.
But when he was with Linda, Susan and I and Linda, we used to go with Tom Dillon up to the cabin and we would play spades all weekend.
I know.
And morning, noon, and night we'd play spades like
Smoke
teams.
cigars.
And
drink whiskey.
We'd just sleep and eat and play spades for like 48 hours straight. It was amazing. We loved the games. There was always the games. And then we were went into business. Scott and I and Peter Sullivan made a prototype for an invention that we had. It was called the Icon Stabilizer. And it could defog a mirror with a hairdryer.
Really?
Yeah, we even drew. It worked great. And we made the frame. It was kind of bulky, but we planned to streamline it when we went into mass production. So we got it down. We drew up the plans. We put the copyright just in case if we ever applied for it, we'd have that dated and notarized or something or other. Those are good times. It was fantastic. And then there was a large gap when the Hankies. All of a sudden, the Doodah Parade was announced that they weren't going to allow motorized vehicles anymore, and there was no idea how they were going to approach this. No one had a plan. So I just decided to do it myself. Just show up with a dolly and some signs, and I just show up, Doodah morning, and Scott would be like, oh, yeah, good, great, you know, okay. You're like, oh, it's expected, you know. And I did that for, there was like, what, 3 or 4 years where they didn't have motorized vehicles. And we decided, let's do a theme every year. So, you know, okay, I'd get with Chester. He would be the big idea man. And okay, what's the theme? Oh, closing Pasadena's Better Bars was one year. And then we're coming to your house to party. That was another year. And another year was We Kill Bars Dead. And then the last year, the best one was Pasadena will be grateful when you're dead.
1 second. I just wanted to say. My name is Buster Amato. This is my father who has yet to acknowledge me because I was born out of wedlock. Steve Amato, and I am his bastard son. He still won't cop to it. Come on. Why don't you tell Mom how sorry you are? Come on.
It was
We never saw a
difficult.
penny of child support.
It was
This guy,
difficult for
you
me
know,
to
you know how
come
hard
to
it was
terms
for me to grow up.
with this, but yet.
Are you proud of your bastard son? Now he is, yeah.
Well,
so when do I get that back child support
the
for the
co-
last 54 years?
The things that he's achieved in his life are so. I mean, you can't measure them
With a yardstick.
No, you can't. I mean, this man has like achieved so much in his short lifetime compared to my meager, wimpy.
So tell me, how do you
existence?
guys know Scott?
Oh,
He's the
I don't-
illegitimate uncle.
I've never heard of him. I don't even know who you're talking about.
Flash your boobs for the camera.
Scott?
I am not
Scott who?
flashing any boobs for
Yeah.
any camera.
It's public access. It's okay.
I'm not flashing.
They'll show it. It's public access.
They're here. Uti and Heinrich.
What's your name?
Uti and Heinrich.
Oh, that's good. You have 2 names there.
They're large.
And they're real.
They're nice.
And they're real.
Nice. Yeah,
You've
he'll
seen
vouch
them?
for them being nice.
No, you've never seen them.
Oh,
He's
that's
never
true.
seen them.
Are they on Facebook?
No. Hell no. No. Anyway, how do I know Scott? Because through Sue Behrens and Ellen Behrens and Tom. And they actually dedicated a song to me, Snotty Scotty, changed the words to the monkey songs, Cheer Up Sleepy Jean, to Cheer Up Screamin' Jean, and I'm Screamin' Jean. And they put me on their CD, and you can hear me screaming. Yeah, so I'm immortalized on their thing. Yay!
Who's that?
Who's that? I don't know. This
That is Gary, the guy that's been around.
Another perv.
A perv.
Another
she says.
perv.
So,
How does this perv know, Scotty?
back in 1982 was when I first came upon him at the Loch Ness Monster, and saw him play, you know, all these old rock and roll songs. And that night, what made me remember him was that during one of the songs, don't even remember what it was, he pulled out a pair of pliers, and he pulled on the inside of his nose. And it's a very sensitive area. And he just pulled, he had the mic in one hand, and he was like pulled out doing one song. And it's like, wow. And they were called Snotty Scotty and the Hankies. It's like, this guy's great. So then, one of the other bands, I introduced the guys. 30 years later, we've been doing Doodah for 30 years. With The Ploy, which was one of the first bands, and Clayton over there, which was a guru of the time. You know, all these characters have been around. Come on in.
Come on, join the
It's your
party.
turn. You're up.
You're up.
You're up. Come on. So anyway, long history of the music scene around here, and these guys are guys I've grown up with. So this is a time that we want to remember Scotty and really make this about him and continuing on, right? Continuing on. We've got to continue on. This is what I've learned about these people. These people are real. We're all quirky. We're all fun. We're all funny. We're all kind of weird looking. And no, except you, darling. You, darling, y'all beautiful. Yeah, y'all beautiful. Yeah.
Fabulous.
Yes. Oh, yes. Yes, anyway. But,
So fabulous.
but we're a quirky group that just loves each other. We love to dance and play around and laugh. And talk about, you know, good stuff.
Scotty, Stevie Size.
You got to talk loud so Scotty can hear.
Scotty gave us our start in Pasadena. That's what I think about Scotty. We would be nowhere without Snotty Scotty and the Hankies. But it was Snotty who. It was Scotty.
Pasadena.
Yeah, but it was Scotty who.
Pasadena. They could have been Hollywood. They could have been Superstar. They could have been Def Leppard, for God's sakes.
Yeah. Are you still in the frame here?
I am.
Yeah.
Now
I don't think this is your segment.
Well, no, I mean, but I set up your segue,
no,
man.
yeah.
Yeah, check it out.
Well, Snotty Scotty gave us our start in Pasadena, and I'm grateful, and he's my musical mentor. And that's all I got to say. I love you, Scotty. And that's why I do this, because guys like you. All right, now you can cut.
So Scott has his star on the Walk of Fame.
He should. He should. He should.
Put something in front of the
Yeah, right in front of the.
I mean,
right in front of the.
You're gonna might as well get this story. Get this story. All right. So it happened when I saw Snotty Scotty back in 1982.
Right.
This guy was just joining the ploy with one of my best friends. We all worked together.
You were our manager.
And I was their
For
manager.
a while.
And
so you got fed up.
we started. No, until I had Taryn. Till I had
so
my
you
daughter.
had kids. Oh yeah, so
I had to stop.
You got busy with kids. Yeah.
She was born, and it was
That's
like.
right. We used to know each other before you had kids. And
That's
stuff.
right.
That's
So
right. Hell yeah.
we were playing all the clubs in Hollywood. Played the Troubadour, Madame Wong's, the Whiskey. We were trying to meet people to get into the record industry.
Right.
They found Pasadena and Snotty Scotty. It happened to be that the drummer, Dave Slifkin, his grandparents owned this electronics shop.
Electronics.
Yes, Empire Electronics, right?
They had a
Union
free
and Fair Oaks.
They had a free upper story in the building.
The upper story
And
was
we
an old
practiced
club
in
from the
upper
1920s
story.
called Club Danzon. Look it up. And it had these stairs that had this neon lights going up the stairs. They're no longer there. And then this huge bar, huge dance floor with bigger than these 2 rooms in this place, with mirrors on one side and a skyline of New York repeated over the.
It was a ball. It was a ballroom.
Yeah, it was a huge ballroom.
It had a full
That
bar.
was the
Had a
practice
kitchen.
place for the ploy. That's where they practiced to
I gotta
perform.
go check on the band in there.
Yeah,
so
yeah,
keep
yeah.
talking. Keep
Yeah,
talking.
I'll tell the
Yeah,
story,
Cut
man.
him off,
Thank
man.
you.
Yeah.
It's all good.
Okay. Thank you.
Yeah, it was good stuff.
Welcome back to town. Come out on your porch, step into your parlor. I'll show you how it all went down. Out with the truckers and the kickers and the cowboy angels. In a good saloon in every single town. Going to remember something you once
Well, this is kind of a get those hankies at ready. C. It's G. Can't do it G. It's in G. Can't. It's on the way now. It's not. It's in C. 6 days in a row. What? 6 days in a row. So, no, you can do it. I'm sorry. I didn't know what you were doing. What's it?
is Snotty Scotty's favorite song, and he told that to me one night in 1984 at my place in Oceanside after a Hanky gig, and Tom and Scott and I were passing the guitar around, and I played the song, and it stunned me when Scotty said, "That's my favorite song." But then it made perfect sense to me when I thought about it for like 2 seconds.
I think it was Yankee. Was it his favorite song before or after he played it?
It's about him. The song's about him. All right. Okay, how's it go?
know. I make love to my baby, and it really knows. Let it only count when you hear bells ring. Well, stand right here, baby, shake that thing. I'm in love with your daughter. You're the one. Oh, with the champagne eyes. I like the way she wiggles when she walks. I like the way she wiggles when she talks. I'm in love. I'm in love with your daughter. With the champagne eyes. I like the way she wiggles when she walks. I like the way she giggles when she talks. I'm in love with your daughter. Another one. Oh, with the champagne eyes.
Let's get this song out here one more time. Let's go!
Woke up this morning, put on my slippers, walked into the kitchen and died. Oh, what a feeling when my soul went through the ceiling. Up into heaven did I ride. When I got there, did it say it happened this old way? Slipped upon the floor and hit your head. All the angels did say just because you passed away were the very last words that she said. Please don't bury me down in the cold, cold ground. Rather have them cut me up, pass me all around. Throw my brain in a hurricane, blind can have my eyes. Deaf can take both of my ears, they don't mind the size. Give my stomach to Milwaukee if they run out of beer. Put my socks in a cedar box, get them out of here. Maybe some Milo can have my arms, look out, I've got your nose. Sell my heart to the drunk man and give my love to Rose. Please don't bury me down in the cold, cold ground. Rather have them cut me up, pass me all around. Throw my brain in a hurricane, blind can have my eyes. Deaf can take both of my ears if they don't mind the size. Got some more trombone. it's not. Get my knees to the needy, don't pull that stuff on me. Hand me down my walking cane, send the tale alive. Dumb man, here's my ass goodbye. Bury me down in the cold ground. Pound in half, lock me up, pass me all around. Throw my brain in a hurricane, wiping out my eyes. Lift the tape, open my ears, they don't mind the size. Thank you, Scotty. Tequila sunrise at the bar. I know. Tequila sunrise right over there. I know.
Oh, how I knew Scotty? Okay. Well, you know, hanging out at the Loch Ness Monster one time, and I passed by Scott, and I said, pardon me, and he said, why, did you fart? And I said, who is that guy? I didn't know he was a singer. So that's how I met Scott. And then, anyway, my name is Bobby Behrens. This is my daughter, Heidi. Heidi Letts.
Hi.
And you're Mike Peck, You are, I know. I see all your videos. Oh, really? I see all your videos. They're great.
Appreciate it. There'll be one more when you want it.
Yikes. Were you at the bridge? Did you do the bridge?
I did.
Lewis.
Doug? Hey, how do you know Scott, Doug?
Joe Ferris took me over to Vitali's, 1979, 78. So I got out of the John Bull Pump, took me over to
Oh, that's the first time you met him was at Vitali's?
Yeah. A week before, he took me to the Loch Ness Monster. I met Dorothy and
right.
He was dancing. But he took me to Vitali's. He was playing, no, he wasn't playing.
Yeah.
Wasper was there. Max Boone was there. Scotty was there. Steve was there. Judge was there.
I was probably there.
You were probably there. Randy was there. Randy sang.
Oh, if you
And
saw
this
Randy sing.
quite an experience. My first night there.
Nice.
Quite an experience.
Yeah.
I went back for more.
Very nice.
I kept on coming back. What can I say?
And you've
They're
been,
very
have
addicting.
you been watching the Hankies ever since then?
Well, Jester told me that they've also played softball on Sundays, so. And apparently these guys have social lives too. They're not just musicians, so. That's
other
always.
lives.
And since they won't pay their roadies, I had to do something to hang out.
Right.
I mean, there's no groupie action. I mean,
Yeah. Just roadies.
not even roadies get that, no. But definitely not just, I mean, I'm step above or below a fan. You know, take your choice.
So what are you going to do now?
What am I going to do? What are we going to do now?
Yeah, I mean, like, what's there left of the life?
Well, I mean, well, Tom Behrens, Steve Bruin.
There's Steve Brown.
Hello. There's a lot of stars, Steve Argus. There's lots left to like. Raghead, they're all left to like. These guys don't stop playing somebody. Yeah, right. Did life stop when Billie Holiday died? Did stop? What did Patsy Cline and Linda Ronstadt? That was probably inspired Linda Ronstadt. So Scotty's death might inspire the next, who knows, next Tom Waits. He could have been Tom Waits, but he wasn't. He was Scott Finnell. John Scott Finnell.
John Scott. Right, don't forget that. Thank you.
He was a step above. He's a cat above everything, everybody. Well, listen.
You want Scotty the cake. It's the first time I get to really taste the tasty Scotty.
Wait. Wait, wait. It's not. I'm not worthy. Wait.
What?
I'm
Wait,
not.
wait.
I'm.
Taste
Trust me.
Scotty the
I'm-
cake.
I am not worthy. Trust me. I'm not worthy.
So who made these?
Scotty's been very instrumental in my confidence. I'm a singer-songwriter, and Scotty used to just tell me, TCH, just sing everywhere, anywhere. And I would happily take on closing every bar in town. Scotty, I won't. Let's not say we did, Scott.
You're Teresa, aren't you? What's your name?
Paul Baranek.
And tell me, how do you know Scotty?
Well, I first saw the Hankies, Snotty Scotty and the Hankies in 1979. I just moved back from Northern California to LA.
Where was it?
At the band shell at Memorial Park.
Oh, was that?
And it was after the Doodah Parade. No, it was after one of the parades in '79. I had just moved down here from Northern California back to LA and went to the parade, and then they said they announced a free concert after the parade, and the rest is history. Then we drove out. I was living in Whittier at the time, and we would drive out every Friday and Saturday night to see the Hankies because they were the greatest show on earth. So anyway, that's really, and over the years I got to know him and know him and love him.
What was Scott like?
Scott was a character and a half. There was nobody like Scotty. He knew how to work a crowd. He knew how to have them eaten out of his hand, and then they just knock him dead. And we're gonna miss him. He's an institution. And it was really, I was lucky to be able to play for him a couple nights before he left the earth. And it was a big honor. And then when Deanna said, "Hey Paul, let's play Long May You Run," because we played it for him when, just 2 days before he died, and that was very sweet. Very sweet. So anyway, thanks, man.
My name's David Chandler, and talking about Scott Finnell tonight. And he's a great soul. I really enjoyed his company. I knew him all the way back into when I was in junior high in South Pasadena. He was the band back then. And if you had gone to one of his places or where he was playing, it was just wonderful. But later on in my life, I married Victoria, and she knew Scott much better than I did. And there was a time when I was 50 years old, I'm 64 now, and 14 years ago, I had an accident, and they were supposed to play on my property, and I was in the hospital. And I'll never forget the grace that Scott and Finnell did for us. Was we were going to have it one weekend, but I was still in the hospital, and he actually said, "Well, we're going to move our whole schedule back 1 week so that we can play David Chandler's birthday." And I said, "God, what a guy!" He talked the whole band into doing it. It was just a great experience. And and then he played at our property a couple other times too, which was really wonderful and wonderful stuff. But I have great memories of Scott and his graciousness, and he was just a good soul to hang out. Drank a lot of beer with us. Good stuff.
Yeah, he seemed so natural on stage, and of course he was. But it wasn't as though he didn't do a lot of premeditation about every gig. About 3 nights before, he'd be tossing and turning in bed, and he'd be thinking of his jokes. I think he didn't worry about the song list. That was Tom Beard's. He just gave that over to Tom. That was fine with him, whatever Tom thought they should do. But in terms of the repertoire, and he started thinking about it a lot a few days before and tossing and turning. And the funny thing was, he would always end up telling different jokes than the ones he planned. He would tell me the ones he planned. And the ones he came up with, I guess they were spontaneous when he actually got on stage, were totally different. And the same with his last gig on the bridge, when he'd just gotten out of the hospital. He was actually feeling really good. He quit drinking then, at that point. And we went around for about 3 days thrift store shopping, because he really wanted to camp it up for what he was going to wear. And then when the day of the bridge party, and he had these purple silk pajama pants he was going to wear, and I forget what else, but a wild outfit. And then the day came, he said, I'm just going to wear what I'm wearing. So he wore that purple shirt and navy blue shorts, and and then later he said, I should have dressed for that. But
And he was cold too, I think he said.
yeah, it was very sweet. He got cold, and he had been anemic, so I went and asked Peter Wilson for his jacket, and Peter Wilson had to empty lots of goods out of his pockets to give Scott his jacket, and I said, well, you better empty it, joking with him, and so, yeah, no, that was great. So
nice.
I feel a longing that we'll never see another Hanky gig, certainly. I must have seen, I don't know, 40, 50, I don't know. I think he had an incredibly huge soul, and I think a lot of people can relate to this. There was something otherworldly about him, where he didn't really care about being in the real world, as he made clear in many ways in the way he lived, but I think he was just a huge soul who was beyond kind of pedestrian things in many ways. And he used to drive me crazy. He'd always have like $1 or $2 in his wallet, and I'd say, won't you carry around at least $10, you know, like, and he'd say, it doesn't matter, and somebody will give me a lift, you know, or buy me dinner. I don't need money, you know. That was very much his attitude.
Seemed to always know that things will work out.
Yeah. Oh, incredible confidence in that. Like, he'd always say, don't worry about me, I'm fine.
Right.
Very independent. Yeah.
Yeah.